Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the PCP, otherwise known as the Pulse Collective Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Zubair Ansari. This is the show that we sit down with top business leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives from every walk of business, and we'll essentially bring the value to our audience to talk about sales, marketing, operations, and anything that you need to help drive your business forward. Sit down, take a chair, grab some coffee. We're going to have a fun little conversation today. And this is the first time that you're tuning in. And for those of you that are watching, we are Pulse Collective. We're a growth partner for businesses all across Canada and the United States. So if you've been trying very old school ways of just picking up the phones and you're not getting the growth that you're looking for, reach out to us down below and drop us a message. I'll have one of our growth consultants reach out to you and see if maybe leveraging AI might be the better way for you to actually scale your business. Drop us a message down below and we'll see if we can maybe help you out. Now, with all that out of the way, I'm very, very excited because today I'm actually joined by Zubair Ansari, who is the CEO over at Scion Systems. Scion Systems is a really cool company to my heart as well, because I come from a cybersecurity background as well. It's a cybersecurity company that's actually focused on helping enterprises secure and manage their identity infrastructure, particularly around certain cases like authentication and access management as well, across both on-premise and cloud environments. I will go into more detail, but I'll allow Zubair to do an intro for himself. Zubair, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shark, for having me here.
So, Zubair, can you kick us off, I guess, we'll start at the beginning. Just share a little bit about your background. What kind of got you to start Scion, being the founder, and what is the company all about?
Okay. So we started off a few years ago, and our focus was always cybersecurity. And in the year 2012, we pivoted and started to focus on identity access and authentication. That's when there was a lot of push for cloud and other services, remote workforce, bring your devices, etc. And we foresaw identity access and authentication becoming a big challenge. And also this whole IAM space becoming the core of cybersecurity, because at some point hackers will start to attack this infrastructure, and if they succeed in attacking and compromising, that means the whole enterprise is compromised. Is that black and white? So with our background, and as way of background, I was one of the original Active Directory developer at Microsoft, who wrote the first version of Active Directory. I did many other technologies also, but by way of background, I was one of the original developers for Active Directory. So I sort of understand the code, and the code, even today, almost my estimation is 80% of the code is still same, because you cannot change the underlying fundamental code, because if you do that, you break a lot of things. So given that this technology was built, in the year 2000, that was the first version where Active Directory was released, the paradigm or the environment, IT environment, was very different. And every enterprise was a silo, an island of itself. They didn't have the present day challenges where everything is connected and somebody from Timbuktu can access your infrastructure. So it was designed for a different time, but because it's been so popular, people still use it. There's a lot of dependency. And with that, we thought that it's important to protect it and provide tool set that will make it easier for all enterprises of all size to protect this very key infrastructure. And
100%.
that's why, yeah, go ahead.
No, I actually just say carry on to your point. You mentioned something very important about identity and access management, just being somebody from that space as well. I used to always hear this one saying, which was hackers are actually no longer breaking in to people's systems. They're logging into people's systems. So
Exactly.
a lot of these attacks are coming from internal attacks as well within an organization. Could you maybe share some
Yeah,
light on your side when it comes to that?
right, right. One of the things is if they can breach this technology, then they can very easily come into enterprise legally. So it becomes very hard to figure out whether it's a legal connection versus illegal connection. Second problem with that is I use this example. It's like a bank. Active Directory or identity store is like a bank that holds every single digital key. And if you can breach that store that is holding all your keys to the kingdom, then you have all the keys to the kingdom, and you can very easily log in and use it, as if they are the actual users. Now, coming to your point, breaches happens both externally as well as internally. It's very hard to say, this breach is internal, because once somebody from outside comes inside your enterprise, then it becomes internal. Our data points that 80% of breaches happens from external sources, 20% happens from internal sources. The one that happens from internal sources are a lot more devastating than from external sources. I don't want to underplay the risk with external sources, but definitely in terms of data loss and other kind of problem, internal breaches are a lot more devastating for the enterprises. I mean, think of it: somebody internally gets into CEO's email inbox, and they start to send random emails to everyone. That's a big problem. So
100%.
it can happen. It can happen.
I thi- I previously, my background, I spent a couple years over at IBM, and I was specifically on the security teams and the AI teams. And if you're familiar with IBM, they typically every single year they release a report. It's called a cost of a data breach report.
Mhm.
And just historically looking at it, just for our audience that may not be as in tune with the security side of things, it's very expensive to a business. It's devastating for a business the second that there is a data breach or some type of data leakage. Because I believe in 2025, the average cost of a data breach was about $4.5 million to an
Yes.
enterprise. Just with that type of information, like, we've obviously discussed the importance of identity and access management, but how do you proactively, as an enterprise, in your opinion, strategize for this? Like, how do you actually make that part of your corporate strategy?
Yeah, I mean, things are improving, definitely. A few years ago, it was a very hard discussion with enterprises to have a proactive security process as tool set in place. But lately, in last 3, 4 years, things are different, and more people are aware of this technology. And one of the challenges with identity access and authentication is majority of folks at one point thought identity space to be operational issue, not security issue, because it is doing not only authentication but many other things. That is changing, and it has changed considerably, but it still needs to change. And more CISOs and all security professionals for different enterprises realizing that, hey, this is key infrastructure and this needs to be protected. And there are way too many things to protect in identity access and authentication infrastructure. It's not only just authentication. We have heard so much about two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, and even in those authentication, there are different variation. People are talking about application two-factor authentication as opposed to device two-factor authentication, and so on and so forth, right? But
Right.
authentication is only one part of it. You have the whole access control that is controlled by this technology. And if you think of a scenario, if you get breached and the data is not leaked, somebody comes in, they try to breach you, but they could not breach you. Your data is safe. Then the loss is very limited. Yeah, it's not good that they did come in, but still you have not lost the data. So that's where access control becomes so important. Combined with this technology is a little bit old, and it touches everything in the enterprise. So the complexity is very large. Given the time it's been out, the skill set in many cases is missing because the people who were very skilled at one time, they are retired or they are no longer in the industry. So you find them very handful. And so all this combined is making it, I believe, much harder to protect. And plus, with Microsoft platform, you have 80 to 90% of enterprises that are on Microsoft platform,
Wow.
right?
Wow. That is
I
true.
mean, we talk about cloud, but it's not, I mean, cloud is there, but majority of the enterprises are on hybrid environment. That means they
Yeah.
have on-premise as well as a cloud. And now their challenges has grown twofold because in the cloud also identity is very critical. If you don't have identity, there is no cloud.
You read
And
you read
if
my
you have
next
on-premise,
question to you. I don't mean to, but my next question to you was actually, as companies are shifting now from more of an on-premise environment to the hybrid cloud or even just fully on cloud environments, you mentioned it's a new challenge. What specifically are these challenges now that around identity governance? Now that I can imagine what they are, but for somebody that's maybe newer to security, what are these challenges now that everything is kind of on a hybrid type of
yeah.
deployment?
If you're purely on the cloud, you have to worry about only one infrastructure that is in the cloud. But majority of enterprises, they have legacy infrastructure that they have to continue to manage because their line of business application depends on it. So you have two environments that you have to worry on-premise as well as the cloud. Now the identity access infrastructure is disjoint. You have one for enterprise on-premise and the other one for the cloud. And there are some tool set that is built by Microsoft and other companies that gives you the illusion of, in some cases, it is coming from a single source of truth. But the source of truth is disparate. One for the cloud, one for the on-premise. Now, they are not one-to-one match also. The infrastructure, in this case, Active Directory, it is a lot more comprehensive when it comes to cloud Entra ID. Cloud Entra ID is a subset of what the Active Directory provides. So when you have something like this, your challenges has grown twofold. Or if you have other SaaS application also, the other SaaS application is also using their own, IAM infrastructure. For example, if you sign up for Salesforce, they have their own IAM. Now your challenge is growing threefold, and so on and so forth. If you also subscribe to Google, now you have four. That's the reason why there are some solutions that provide single source of authentication. Authentication, one part. Your
Mhm.
access control is again very separate. So these are some of the challenges. Now, combining with this, the technology is always evolving, and we know that in last 2 3 years we've been hearing a lot about two things: AI, quantum computing. Quantum computing is still not there. It's commercially available, but the AI is good, but it leads to other challenges. And we see it because it makes it so much easier for breaches also. And of
Right.
course, it helps you also. It exposes you also. It creates more challenges for you.
So we actually have when I used to actually look into this a lot, there was a term for our audience called shadow AI, and a lot of these risks within these enterprises are from people who are unauthorized leveraging AI tools that without having direct permission from their technology teams or whatever it is. And that actually was another part of the report I was referring to earlier, the cost of a data breach report, where one of the key drivers that are actually creating these attacks that are becoming more and more frequent are shadow AI risks. That's one of the key things. So this is a perfect transition to the next segment where we want to really just talk about AI and how it's impacting the identity and access space. You mentioned historically it's a technology that's been around for a while, and a lot of people that are mature in this technology are kind of on the older side. But of course, AI is changing the way that the technology probably is. On both sides of the equation, can you kind of explain how is AI helping make this technology much more polished and mature? But then on the other side, how is it increasing the risks as well?
Yeah. So I'll start with how it is helping. For example, right, whenever something happened, it was very hard to figure out what happened because of lack of knowledge, skill set, and the subject is very vast. So you go through Google, or if you have background, and you have to do a lot of experiment analytics, etc., to find out what is the cause and how you remediate. Okay. And these days with the AI, the good thing is if you know some of the symptoms and if you ask AI, hey, I see XYZ, what does it mean? You
Right.
get a very quick answer. And most of the time, the answer is fairly accurate. Now, second thing, you can say, how do I remediate? And most of the AI agents gives you a fairly good answer in terms of the steps you need to remediate. Now, coming back to the point, how people are able to access using AI, right? We have A to Z of how you can breach Active Directory, for instance, in this case, right? There are tools that freely available that you can use to breach, especially by the internal sources, because you already have an account. It might not be a high privilege account, but you do have a legal account. From there, you can do elevation of permissions and you can become high privilege account. Now, in some cases, they will be caught because if somebody is monitoring it diligently, it shows up. And if you do not have monitoring solution, that is the case for a lot of enterprises, especially the small and mid-sized enterprises. They will miss it. And we have seen cases over cases where the breach happened 6 months ago and they couldn't find it. They didn't know. And 6 months later, they were trying to do something else and they found some accounts that nobody knows who created. And they were high privilege account also, right? 6 months down the road, they figure out, oh, we've been, hopefully not breached, but most likely they are breached.
Wow. Wow.
So the AI makes it that much simpler now. You don't have to be an expert to
Yeah.
breach because these tool sets are available. You can use AI to find those tool sets and
Definitely. I think it's a two-sided sword, I feel like, where, every single thing that it has brought in terms of an advantage as well, like there's a lot of risks. And the more that AI is being adopted, AI has kind of become this buzzword across every organization where they're trying to adopt it. They're trying to just make sure that they're not falling behind. But the reality is data security has become such a key factor in a lot of organizations. And data security, for example, I think there was an actual study, I think it was by Gartner or by Forrester's, where most enterprise IT teams right now, their biggest investment is in data security software currently, because that's one of their biggest gaps where people are trying to address that. I want to kind of zoom out, Zubair, a little bit. And, we've talked about the industry and like how important identity and access management is. But I want to talk a little bit more about Scion Systems, like your company. How exactly do you, as your company, number one, how does your platform easily address these things from an ease of use interface and all those types of things? What type of enterprises do you typically deal with? Just tell us a little bit more about your product itself.
oh, good question. So we have one of the very comprehensive solution especially in Microsoft space. The identity space is huge, and different thing means different thing to different people. Some people think that SSO is IAM. Some
Yeah.
people think Federation is IAM. Yeah, it's part of IAM, but it's not complete IAM. And some people think PIM or privilege identity management or privilege access management is IAM and they can use this and they will be secure. That is very far from truth because you are by using that, you're protecting one part of infrastructure. IAM infrastructure. For example, PIM is privilege identities. In Microsoft AD, there are 5 different ways of making somebody a privilege account.
Wow.
And if you're not monitoring it all the 5 ways, then you will miss. Somebody is a high privilege account and your PIM may not even know that. And also there are multiple ways of doing the same task. And there were reasons why Microsoft had to do that at the time, but that makes it very complicated. In fact, we had one of the charts we put together where we expose how many ways somebody can compromise Active Directory, and there are so many different ways we could not even fit in one single slide. We had it
Wow.
only like 80-85%, and it's amazing. And the challenge further is majority of the solution provider, right? They focus on one or two aspect of the breach, and they sell that solution. And when an enterprise just buy those one or two solution that protects one or two scenarios, then they are limited. They are exposed in other areas. I just gave an example of PIM. PIM is privileged identity, right? But what if somebody attacks what is called group policies? Has nothing to do with privileged identity management. Group policies controls everything each machine does within the enterprise. It controls what software you can run, what features of the software can run, and so on and so forth. That is controlled through group policies. And there are a couple of ransomwares. Probably you might have already heard of them. Lockbit 2.0. And
Right.
there's another one, Roic. They're very, last year data is, I think, Lockbit 2.0 was the most common ransomware, especially in our side of the world. And what it does, it exploits group policies to push itself onto different machine and encrypt those disks. And the challenge is if it can push the exe to all the machines, it's too late. No amount of undo is going to work because the disk can be easily encrypted. And most
Right.
likely the next reboot you do, it will encrypt, right? So it's not just privileged identities that are susceptible to breaches, but there are other aspects.
No, definitely. I think you laid it out perfectly. There's not just one or two angles. As a cybersecurity executive, these are things that you really need to pay attention to. There's four or five. Like I actually didn't even really think about the group policies aspect until you brought it up right now. That's actually a very major part of an enterprise, and it's very susceptible as well. I'm really, yeah,
Can I add one thing about group
yeah,
policies to your audience? Microsoft has two tools. One is the one that is out of the box, and then they have an advanced group policy management tool that they are retiring or is going to hit end of life, that product end of life on April 14th, 2026. So what it means is once it hits the end of life, there is not going to be any support, no patches, no security patches, no next versions. So we know that many enterprises still use advanced group policy management. At Scion System, we have a tool that is better than, it provides all the functionality of advanced group policy management and many more things than that enterprises needed. And I wanted to let your audience know that they can reach out to us and we can help and migrate the data and they can use our tool set to properly manage, because the first step of security is to properly manage catalog and make sure those things are in place.
right.
Otherwise, no amount of security is going to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to get into a little bit just about now AI in the industry. And let's look a little bit more on the future focus now. I'm just thinking about how AI has really changed the industry when it comes to strategic planning. I'm sure for a lot of cybersecurity executives as well, a lot of the vulnerabilities we've kind of spoken about. But also, I want to get into like workflows when it comes to how people are just leveraging AI to their advantage. I'm curious, like for you, are you currently like does your platform and your software your tool that you're using, are you using AI in your tool to detect certain pieces? Are you planning on using AI in certain areas? Like what is your roadmap personally when it comes to leveraging AI?
So we are partially using the AI, especially in terms of remediation. So we have a product. What it does, it monitors the identity access infrastructure for any changes. And it has the ability to alert you of the changes. And of course, you can define policies. Okay, these are the changes I want to get notified. These are the changes I do not want to get notified. And I want to keep it in database for later work and so on and so forth. And what we do is when a change happens, right? It's very hard to determine the intention of the change. The level we get the change, we don't know if it's coming from the legal source or illegal source, because everything is legal at the level we get those changes, or the level the AD processes that. So what we do is we look at those changes and we integrate with AI to remediate. How to remediate? If you see any alert, if you see something some of these trends, how do you remediate and go back in time? Okay. For example, we have another solution. It's the backup and restore of the directory infrastructure. So if you see some changes that should not be there, it's very easy to roll back those changes with a click of button. This is where we use the AI to make sure that you can quickly roll back and remove ransomware from further
Mm.
creating problems. Currently, that's where we use it, but we do have some additional plans to integrate AI, especially when it comes to the local area or on-premise Active Directory.
Oh wow. Yeah. I think for a lot of people like me, I'm not definitely as technical as you are, and I'm sure a lot of people in the audience they don't have the same technical expertise when it comes to these things. But I'm hoping a lot of people listening to this, you can see the value and kind of more than the value, just the importance when it comes to actual identity and access management within an enterprise, and how tools like what Zubair's company over at Scion Systems they're bringing to the market to try to address some of these really key issues because they're not just problems when it comes to internal risks. It's a very big financial concern as well. So it's a two-sided equation, and I'm hoping that a lot of people are getting value from this. I definitely have learned a lot already when it comes to security and just identity from you in this conversation. I think the last phase of this, what I really want to get into is just learning a little bit more about you personally, Zubair as a person, and who is the CEO of Scion Systems? Like, if somebody sees you not just as this founder, what exactly, like, what are your interests? What are you into? Like, if you weren't currently in the technology space, what would you be doing right now?
Probably I'll be a coach, coach for because I coach my kids' basketball team.
Oh, I'm very big on basketball. How long have you been coaching for?
They started play when they were like 6 year old. Now
Yeah.
they play for university. So for this
Wow.
many years. So, I must have done okay in terms of coaching that they're able to play at, at D1 university level. So
Wow,
I'm thankful.
they're playing Division 1?
Yes.
Wow. Whereabouts are you? You're in which state?
Northwest, Seattle.
Wow. See, that means you definitely have, like, once you're done with technology, you definitely have a career in coaching in front of you. So you could definitely make that pivot.
I think it was easier to do it with my kids than probably other people.
Let's throw a couple quick
Yeah.
questions at you. You don't need to think
Yeah.
about these too much. I just want to have a little fun with it. But let's look at two questions related to business, and then I have two
For sure.
questions related to just you personally. For Scion Systems, where do you see yourself right now, 6 to 12 months from now? What would you like to see yourself accomplish?
Okay. This year, we are focused on growth, and we do want to grow at least 100% this year, double the revenue. And the reason for it is, we have been focused very much on organic growth. And one of the reasons is because we are a bootstrap company. It's, I think, one of the very few, probably we are the only one in this space who's a bootstrap company with so much intellectual property as well as solution that looks at this problem holistically. So definitely that is our goal, prime goal this year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm just curious for somebody in the security space, how are you? Because I can tell organic, I've had so many webinars, events that I've gone to. There's a lot of security events that are local. You meet a lot of these companies that might be leveraging your tool. But outside of these types of tools, like, what channels do people typically use to try to scale?
So what I can tell you what we use. We typically goes to these events. We conduct conferences and seminars, educational seminars. And there the intention is to educate the enterprises of the risks and what it means to get breached and why this technology is so important and why they must protect it. And of course, we go through the emerging trends in terms of hacking, etc. Because believe it or not, hacking has become very sophisticated now because of the AI. So basically, educating them, and that is the best thing that has working for us. And we have tried the other options. Unfortunately, the other options we were not very successful. Going to these live conferences, meeting people, conducting educational seminars, etc., has been working.
Very good. Very good. I know a lot of people leverage like email to get people to seminars, webinars, whatever the case may be. They have in-person events at offices, but there's a lot of tools now. When I was actually at IBM, I had a conference. It was a conference that wasn't focused on identity and access. It was focused on endpoint security that we had to basically bring a bunch of our audience to. And traditionally, I used to be told to like pick up the phone and call these people and try to get them to come to the event. So I would be sitting there on my desk calling 100 of these like CISOs and these people at these companies. And the reality is that none of them were willing to listen. So I actually changed the approach at that time where a lot of these emails, for example, that we would be sending out, instead of our sales team sitting there and everybody's researching every company, figuring out how we can educate them, just like what you said, you have one report that you've built. So, for example, it's educating them on data security, the cost of a data breach, whatever it is. And now you send one email and you use that as your hook. This is what you need to educate yourself. And at the end of the email, all you don't ask them to sit down with you. You don't ask them for anything. You ask them if they want to learn a little bit more information. And then you just give them more information. And ultimately, after 2, 3 touch points, those people will be very curious about what it is that you have to offer. And that actually completely changed the game. We went from having struggling to get 10 people to our event to having a 200-person event last year. So definitely think that can work. Just wanted to share that insight as well. But now I'm curious now, just from a personal perspective, if you could also just take a magic wand and fix one thing, it could be internally over at your company or just across the industry, what you're seeing, because you're seeing a lot of trends right now as well with what companies are trying. I'm sure you've had conversations with other security executives. They've told you, "Oh yeah, we've already researched into XY software. We've already done this." What would that one challenge be that if you could change it, you would change right now?
The one challenge, right? Because there are many players in this space these days, and there's focused on point solution. And one thing I would like to, if I had a magic wand, like to change the perception of enterprises that just having that point solution is going to protect them completely. And the second perception they typically have is, oh, I have it covered. And only if you dig a little deeper and you realize they don't have it covered. So understanding that they may not have covered, being open to it from the enterprise side, I'll change that because the data is proving repeatedly that many of the enterprises do not have it covered, even though they think they have it.
Definitely. I have 3 more questions for you, Zubair. These are going to be a little less business, but
Sure.
just what would you say is one cybersecurity habit that every company should adopt immediately?
I will focus on the first stage is basically proper management and the cataloging because these are old technologies. They've been around for a while. They were designed one way and the whole configuration and the environment has drifted into a completely different configuration. And to know how different they are, they have to do it on a repeatable basis, following very specific processes. I mean, you do not get security just by toolset. In my view, there are 3 pillars: people, process, and toolset. You need people, proper process, and toolset, of course. So that is one thing I will change is, and the first proper management of any technology. If it's not properly managed, you're asking for trouble.
Agreed. Agreed. My next question for you would be like, what is one tech tool right now that you rely on every single day to do your work?
Since we're on Microsoft platform, everything we have is Microsoft. And in fact, all of our application are built on Microsoft stack. We don't mix and match different stacks because typically when you do that, it can expose you to security problems because the platform works differently, the stack different works differently. And if you insert one platform into another platform, there could be problems. And we have seen a few of the competitor solutions run into those problems.
Yeah.
So, I mean, personally, most of my day is spent on email, Outlook, PowerPoint, Word document. Unfortunately, these days I don't write much code except when somebody asks me, we ran into this challenge and how do we address? Other than that, 24 hour is taken by email, Word document, and PowerPoints.
For me, if you tell me I can't live without currently the way that our business has changed, whether it's Gemini or whether it's Claude, those two carry a lot of our just
Yeah.
overall
Our
workflows
team
now.
uses both of them. Our team depends on it. Even
Yeah.
the developers, etc., they depend heavily on Claude and Gemini.
So, my last question would be, well, two questions. Was there a book, like your favorite book that you read growing up, where it might have just, there was one message that resonated with you? And if there isn't a book, if there's a piece of mentorship advice that you received at an earlier age that you could share?
So the book, it was about attention, and the book was all focused on people has, 10-second, not even 10-second of attention. And if you do not grab their attention within that, it's a lost cause. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
an interesting book. And, and
Commenting on that, 10 seconds is actually, it tells me
long.
it's an older book because nowadays,
This is before AI.
yeah, nowadays the average attention span, I think it's between 6 and 6.5 seconds. You have that much time, and it's only getting worse now with TikTok, Instagram, and everything else. But yeah, no, I guess my last question for you then would be just overall, when you're actually sitting down and this is your work time, your focus time, are you more of a coffee drinker? Are you more of a tea person? Like, how do you typically sit down and get your work done?
I need coffees,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
the same way.
I, I wish I don't have to depend on coffee, but, that's a reality.
Yeah. It's hard. Like for me, for example, like right now I'm fasting for a few more days. So I don't have my coffee readily available beside me. But
Yeah, me too.
typically the entire day I'm just sipping on it the entire day. But
Yes.
no, Zubair, thank you so much. I think this has
Right.
been a really fun conversation, sharing your insights. To wrap up, can you just let everybody know where would be the best place for people to find you, and also just connect with Scion Systems as well?
Yeah. Thank you. To connect us, you can find us on LinkedIn, our company website, or my personal LinkedIn, Zubair Ansari, or you can reach us at www.systems.com. Scion System is one word, .com, or you can send us email info@sciencesystems.com, or call us at 425-605-5325. And again, I want to emphasize on the advanced group policy management. That tool is going away. You would need replacement, and we have replacement. Reach us out, and hopefully we can help.
This has been an absolute honor, Zubair. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Everybody, please feel free to even just check out their website, learn a little bit more, just educate yourself on the importance of identity management in today's day and age. And Zubair, thank you again, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.